Hello and good day. I'm Renee Perry, and welcome to Business Success Starts with Loving Your Work podcast. Today I'm excited to be talking with our first guest, Rich Cruz. I've known Rich probably about 20 years. He has done an amazing job on several websites that I've had done, marketing materials, and a lot of the technical aspects of it that I really don't enjoy. Let me tell you a little bit about Rich. Rich is the president and management consultant for WorkBalance Consulting and Greater Chicago Consulting. He has a blog that I would like to invite everyone to read, and I recommend it. Check it out at harmoniousworkplaces.com. There are at least two things that I really appreciate and admire about Rich. The first thing is Rich is very creative, highly creative. Not only does he write a blog, but he's an artist. He's also a musician who plays many different instruments. And on the other hand, he's also very business wise. The other thing I really admire about Rich is he loves to learn and grow. And he has a long list of credentials, schools, trainings to prove my point. And I'm going to list a few of them. I'm not going to list all of them. I'll list 10. I know it's the tip of the iceberg. I know Rich well enough to know it's just a little bit of what he's done. Rich has a BA in Visual Art from the University of Chicago, from the College of Visual Arts, an MBA from Capella University, MS in Industrial Organizational Psychology from Purdue University, Certified Management Consultant from the Institute of Management Consultants, Society of Human Resources Management, certification in OD and Change Leadership from the Drucker School of Management, professional certified marketer from American Marketing Association, career coach from IAP Career, college, talent optimization consultant, and last but not least, DISC coaching certification. I warned you, that was a lot. Rich, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks a million, Renee. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I've listened to all your podcasts, and yeah, we've known each other for a while now. So it's an honor to be here. Thanks a million.
Well, the honor is on me, honestly. I want to get right to it, though. I want to learn about why the mindset of learning and growing is so important to you and how that has impacted your business or your career.
Yeah. So learning and growing has been, yeah, it's that alphabet soup after my name, I guess. Even if you don't have those kinds of credentials or whatever, like just listening to other people and always learning, whether it's on the job or through books or listening to podcasts or whatever. I think, in fact, my final paper at Purdue was about self-efficacy, right? It's about empowering people and giving them the self-confidence through training to be able to perform, right? And I think maybe I think maybe some of this comes out of a little bit of I'm unsure about myself, and so I want to gain that confidence. That's one thing I think. But also the other thing, I don't know, there's something, I don't know if it's my parents instilled it in me because my dad, we used to have an encyclopedia of books, the Encyclopedia Britannica that, was like the door-to-door salesperson that sold it to you, right? And I read all of those cover to cover.
Wow.
It was just like, that's what we had at the time. We didn't have the internet. If we wanted to learn something, that's what we had, and it was kind of through those things you develop, like, oh, I want to learn more about this, or I want to learn more about that, and so you start learning about music and art and science and all of that, and it just, I don't know, you start to just not be a specialist, I guess you can say. Like, I never had an inkling to want to be like specialize in one thing. I've always been like, I just want to learn whatever I can. Um, I think there's that. I don't know if I remember if we did this exercise together, Renee, or not,
Mm.
but there's that wheel of life exercise, right? Where it says, your spiritual life and your business life and your family life and all that. And I think that's a good reason why I try to learn as much as I can about different things because I'd like that wheel to be balanced. I don't want a flat tire somewhere.
I
If that
don't think
makes
you have a
sense.
flat tire anywhere. And you brought me way back to the Britannica encyclopedias because I too remember reading them and how fascinating. You can learn a lot just on different things that you never thought you'd be interested in.
Right, right. Boy, I even remember early on when we had our first computer, we got the encyclopedia, the whole thing, that whole volume on a CD. You could pop in. And we used that quite a bit.
Well, how do you feel that that mindset has helped impact your career? How how has it helped you help other people?
Yeah. So especially in consulting, well, even at, like any job that I've been in, right? You always have to learn the internal culture, the industry, um, and the more you can absorb what's going on, what the situation is, the internal impacts and the external forces that impact the company, um, the more you can learn that, the better your problem solving ability is because you have the data to be able to um, think things through with other people, not just by yourself, but with other people. So that I think that dialogue is also like very important. Um, and I mean, I've worked in. I think the last count was just a couple weeks ago. I was working with my business partner. There's like 30 different industries. you know, you have to learn the nuances of some of those, the regulations, the ins and outs of those in order to be able to help the client. So I think that just having the willingness to learn and the ability to be able to draw from what you know and apply it to that situation, um and then admit also, there's this unlearning part too, right? Admit that what I learned may not apply to this, so I need to go back and relearn something. I think all of that has helped me to be able to say to a business owner or an executive and go, okay, here's your situation, and here's how I think we should go about fixing it.
It makes a lot of sense to me. It sounds to me like you really strive to be excellent at what you do as well, which is one of the reasons why that is so important to you and how it has helped other business owners or or other of your clients.
Well, I think you and I we did the exercise in passion, right? About
Mhm.
passion in our business, and um, I always thought that the passion was for me was like the art and music part, right? But it goes beyond that. It goes
Mhm.
beyond it's more like the how do I figure this out and how do I apply that to go and help somebody else? So yeah, that's i- if I don't do a good job, I'm not going to have a good reputation either.
Mhm.
Right? So there's a little bit of selfishness there too.
Sure.
Like I just need to make sure that what I'm doing, I'm able to provide the best possible, solution.
That makes a lot of sense. So, I'm curious, I sort of know the answer to this because I know we've talked about it before, but when you were younger, before you went into college, what did you think you wanted to do in your career?
I wanted to be a Disney animator.
Mhm.
That is what I wanted to do. So in the fourth grade, I had my first commission job, right? I We had a mimeograph machine at the school, and um they needed me to draw a griffin. I don't know why I remember this, but I do. It's like one of these pivotal moments in my life, right?
Mhm.
For a letterhead, and I did, and that I'm like, oh man, I could do this, and it gets used, and I see it in all these different places now. That's really cool. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna go this art route because I think I can make it, right? And then there's the storytelling part that I wanted to do. So I really wanted to do like cartooning. And so I didn't take one art class. I can't say that. In high school, my parents did send me to the American Academy of Art for a life drawing class. But in college, I was like, that's going to be my major. Even if I'm going to the University of Chicago, which is not an art school at all, I am going to study art so I can go and be a Disney animator. It didn't really pan out that way. But uh, I've been using art in visual storytelling throughout my entire career. It's just one of those things that, um, who knew that nowadays, you have to take data and like make it look like something for somebody to understand. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that actually came in handy.
Well, that brings me then to the next question of there obviously was a process for you in your career. So tell me about what that process was. So you went from that to what was your first job, and then kind of lead us to what you're doing today.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, I mean, I've been working since I was 16. So I started off, actually I tried to get a job when I was 15. I even had a permit from my parents, but I turned 16 before I got the job. But I was an industrial cleaner. I won't ever say go and do that. My first real position was, I ended up being the operations manager um and regional trainer for Sam Ash Music. That was in 1999, I think it was. Yeah, and I had a really good time there, but it's retail can really burn you out, especially at operations. So I wanted to do more with that satisfied this music part of me, but I wanted to do more with this visual part of me, right? The art part. So I went into publishing. I was a associate marketing director for a church music and music education publisher
Hmm,
for a few
interesting.
years, and decided to go back for my MBA because I kind of hit a ceiling. Like there's really no, it's a small business, no really place for me to go. At least that's what I thought. um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got my MBA, and then I caught the entrepreneurial bug, and that was in 2006. I started a sign company, Behold Signs and Graphic Solutions. GIA, that company that I was working for, they were actually one of my first clients, and did everything went well until that pesky recession hit.
That
Yeah,
affected so many people.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. But it was great to be able to use, all of the. I'm able to use my art. I'm able to use the
Hmm.
business side of it. I think the parts that I really enjoyed about the business was working with the people. I mean, I still have relationships from Sam Ash, which unfortunately they're closing all their doors this year.
Oh,
We were just reminiscing on Facebook with all the people that I'm still connected with. So um, the people at almost every job that I've worked at, I still keep in touch with them, and I think that's really why I decided in 2020 to go back to school at Purdue was because I really liked working with the people and solving the people issues and maintain those relationships, helping business owners to have the right people on staff, right, and to train them so that they're successful, and then to help the workers to have jobs and maintain their jobs, right. So it serves both purposes. I'm trying to play both sides of
hmm.
the of the field there, if that makes sense.
No, it sounds very balanced, which was
Yeah.
an important word for you.
Work balance
Yes.
consulting. That's right. That's where it came.
I'm curious then. So you kind of led us to what you're doing today. What, through all of these years, you've been doing this for a long time, what have you seen as your biggest business or career obstacles or challenges?
As much as people are the things that make things happen, right? They're the driving force. They're also the biggest stumbling blocks,
Mm,
which is that's the other thing that, as a consultant we can help with, right? Um, but the I think the biggest stumbling blocks is when you have people who don't want to change, they don't want to adapt to the external forces. We talk about pestle, political, economical, technology, or societal, technology, legal, and economic fact or environmental factors, right? So um, when those things happen, when those external factors happen, I've seen business owners who are like they are staunchly like, no, we're this is the way we do business, and we're just going to keep going this route, right? They get in their own way sometimes when that type of thing happens. Um, and then when you have employees where you're having some kind of a change happen, whether it's like a new technology system like a CRM or a supply chain management system or something like that come in, and they don't want they've been doing it the same way for 15 to 30 years, right? And
Hmm.
they like we I don't want to learn this. I don't want to learn this new thing. I'm not a techie or whatever, those are some of those things that get in the way. But again, uh, in this this newer venture of going into IO psychology and or organizational development, it's an opportunity, right? Because there's this opportunity to help people to adapt to change, because that's the one constant we're going to have in our whole life is change, right? I've had to go through it myself several times.
Yep, it's definitely the hardest thing for pretty much everyone to adapt to something different, or how to switch
Absolutely.
quickly, especially if you have an economy like 2009 when things started going
Yeah.
south really fast. What are you going to do that's going to save your business, or what do you have to do quickly?
Right.
How do you
Exactly.
how do you
Yep.
do that then? So if you get these clients that are really hard to change their mindset or make them move quickly or do something different, how I'm sure that you have many different ways, but what do you see is maybe one of the easier ways to help them do that?
Well, I think when you can leverage data, one of the nice parts about marketing is that it's very outward facing, right? I mean, you can actually look at some performance data,
Mhm.
maybe not revenue, but other things that drive revenue, social media and web traffic. There are certain external signals that can say, hey, I noticed this happening, right? So, but when you have internal data and you can demonstrate trends and what's going on and um, what can be done to change the trajectory of things if they're going in the south southbound direction, right? Um, when you can leverage that data and you can tell the story with charts and graphs, and sometimes you need some visual cues, right, to
Sure.
show this is what's happening. um that has been probably most one of the more persuasive ways of doing that. But it really always comes down to, and this is one of the things I taught my marketing class this last term at Trinity Christian College, was you have to know the audience. You've got to understand what is driving them, their motivations, kind of develop a persona of that person so that you can tailor your communication to them. You know, my biggest failures is when I don't do that and I just try to push my agenda on somebody, right? But when I can tailor a solution to them, it's so much better.
Absolutely, because it is the acknowledgement that we all learn and see things differently, and that you have to try to
Absolutely.
get into their world and help them with how they perceive the world, how it would best help them and not our agenda. That
That's
makes a
right.
lot of
Yep,
sense.
for sure.
So, with all of these different things that you've done, what do you feel has driven and motivated you the most?
Um, my family, I'll
Mhm.
be honest with you. So my family, my wife and I got married fairly young. And my wife was 21, I was 24, and we had to make things work. We we had kids young, and we really needed to make decisions based on what the family needed. So getting into business, for instance, was a decision to have a build a legacy and have a legacy for the family and build wealth that way. Um, and every job or position that I've had throughout the years, every business venture has always been what is the least risky for the family, but risk nonetheless, right? That would be an investment into taking us to the next level. So that has always governed why my wife's gone back to school for her master's degree and why I've done, what I've done and all that stuff too. So that would be the number one driver, I would say.
Well, that's a good number one driver. We all have our
Yeah.
families, and I know you also have 3 kids that are very artistic as well. You come from an artistic family.
Yep, yep, yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like my wife's a music teacher. Her two sisters are art teachers
Mhm.
each. But we both came from law enforcement families. It's a very weird mix there. My dad was in law enforcement. My brother's in law enforcement, and her brother and her father are in law enforcement.
Interesting.
But the rest of us are you know on that creative spectrum. Yeah. So the kids are chips off the old block, I suppose.
Sounds like they couldn't really help it. It's in
They
their
couldn't really
DNA.
help it. That's right. Yeah.
So, moving forward, your family is what drives and motivates you the most. What would you say what else motivates you and drives you to continue doing what you do today?
Yeah. So there's a researcher, Erickson, who has um like a theory on the stages of life. And in this stage of my life, there's this stage of like generativity, which means like you're trying to pass on the knowledge and your skills and abilities to the younger generation. Right? It's either that, it's generativity or stagnation. I think that's what happens, right? You're either passing this on and helping other people and raising up their skills and helping them to do what they do. Or you're stagnant and you're unhappy and not doing that type of thing, right? And I feel like that's what's motivating me right now. It's just kind of this natural inclination to want to that this is part of consulting, is being able to kind of pass on your knowledge and help build the skills of those other people, because you're not going to be engaged with them as an employee. You're not there to be a long term uh um part of the team. You're there to solve a problem, help them to develop the self-efficacy and the skills that they need to continue going, and then you move on and help somebody else, right? And that's um I mean, and that takes some time, but I think that's one of the big driving things.
Mhm.
I loved every minute of teaching my first college class this last term, and then working on some of these organizational development projects and even some of the marketing projects that I've been working on, and helping my clients to understand, not just doing the stuff, but helping them to understand what I'm doing so that their team can carry that stuff on whether I'm around or not.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm then curious if you stayed true to wanting to become or to be an artist for Disney. What do you think you would have what missed opportunities do you feel you would have experienced having stayed that route, or do you still wish you had followed that route?
I don't think I would have liked that route.
Mhm,
So I'm very thankful for that.
mhm,
Um, And it's interesting. I was I was just at Comic Con with my family over the not last weekend, but the weekend before. And I met some people that are, kind of my age or maybe even a little older, and they are doing some of the storytelling, visual storytelling, and I started bringing that into um even my blogs, at Harmonious Workplaces. I'm doing my own illustrations on that, so um uh so I don't feel like I've like missed the boat on that. And in fact, my youngest child is actually pursuing animation.
Mm,
So I'm living
mhm,
vicariously through one of my kids. Um so and I think that if I had gone that route, I would have missed out on building the family that we have. I think I would have missed out on building a lot of the relationships that I have in this area. And, you know, um, my entire life and my entire career has been working with small businesses, particularly small businesses in this area. And it would have been a completely different trajectory for me, on that route. So yeah, it would have been. I don't know exactly know what those missed opportunities would be, but I feel like, I've had some opportunities for growth without that.
I'm also
And it
hearing that no matter what, you are on your course. Sometimes we have this idea in our heads, and it's almost it's a ceiling, right? We have this ceiling, and we don't understand how much more we can do than what we thought in our minds, especially when we're young. So I'm guessing you feel that way, like you've exceeded whatever you thought you would be able to do as that young boy who wanted to just work for Disney. Because you're
Yeah,
obviously doing that and more. You're still staying with your artist uh, talents. You're still and you've increased to business talents and more.
yeah. And I still feel like I'm imposing some, and I'm working through this, but I still feel I've imposed some self limits on myself. Like
Hmm.
there are other aspirations I have, like writing a book, which I started, but I haven't. I start it and then I stop and I go back. I need to get on track with that. But um, yeah, I mean, there are still things I want and feel like I need to do in life, but that's, I think that's life, and those
Hmm.
are, some of those goals. I just need to frankly write them down and make them real, rather than just having them swirl up here.
Hmm. And everything's all in its own time, right? Because literally doing
Right.
these podcasts have been on my agenda for 20 years. And I've always had the idea that I wanted to find local business owners and just tell their story and to
Yeah.
highlight that. So it's taken 20 years. I've written 2 books now. I finished a book that took me, it's just for my family, but it took me 3 years during COVID to do it. So opportunities will arise that allows you to finish, all of those things that you still have yet to accomplish, that still want to accomplish, and probably more. Because I know as I continue to do things that have been on my bucket list, then more get added.
Sure, sure. And I appreciate that you're actually like you're going through and doing these podcasts, because your story, you've told your story through the last, was it 10 podcasts? Is that
It
right
was,
now?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So it's remarkable to hear the ups and downs and sideways and everything that you've gone through. It's both a an inspiration and a relief to hear that, I'm not the only one going through some of that. So
Yeah, nothing we do is easy, right? Anything that's worth
right.
doing is hard. And
Sure.
just to stay that course, to stay on the course that brings you your joy and what it is that you love to do is really what ultimately I think is the best thing we can do in our lives for everyone,
Absolutely.
including ourselves. Because I think we're always giving. When we are doing what it is we really want to do, we are giving naturally to other people as well as to ourselves. It feeds everybody.
Right. Right. Yep.
And I've got just a couple more quick questions for you. If I were
Sure.
to ask you, Rich, what is it that you love to do? How would you answer that?
Honestly, I mean, like, love to do like my decadent like thing is I love collecting musical instruments, and and I don't know why there's some weird thing, and it was way before Sam Ash. It was way before anything like that. Um, there's something about like if I took this screen down, I'm in my music room and you would see, a drum set over here and guitars over there, and anyway. Um, but it's not just like collecting them, it's like learning how to play them, at least where I'm functional at it. Right. I can't say I am a whiz at any of these. And have I ever like would I ever play on stage with them? Probably not. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah,
my
that's your love. And I'm sure you have many of them, but I was curious what that answer would be. What wisdom would you pass on to anyone who's listening that would be helpful for their careers or their businesses?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Sure. What wisdom would you like to pass on to anybody listening that would help them in their business or in their careers?
Yeah, the one thing, it's become my favorite quote from a Disney movie.
Go
I
figure.
shared this on a previous podcast. You know, it's from Meet the Robinsons, Keep Moving Forward. Um, from when I had Behold Signs, and we were towards that end part, that really helped me to adapt and change and go into consulting and move from that into some of the other roles that I've had throughout my career. um yeah, it's always keep moving forward.
I love that, actually. That's right on. Rich, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being my first guest and for spending some of your busy day, I'm sure, with us and making us a little bit wiser and more understanding of your business journey. I'm sure it will help other people in theirs.
Oh, thanks a million, Renee. This has been a treat, and I love talking with you. And thank you so much for everything you've done for me and in my career journey. So I'm indebted to you. It's
Oh,
a really a pleasure.
well, I'm sure we'll be talking.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I would again like to invite everyone to visit Rich's websites for more information about what he does. It's workbalanceconsulting.com and greaterchicagoconsulting.com. And then check out his blog at harmoniousworkplaces, that ends with an S.com. If you have any questions, feedback, ideas, or if you know somebody who would like to share their business journey, even if you want to know more about any upcoming workshops, feel free to contact me at reneeperrycoaching.com. I would love to hear from you. Also, at the end of this podcast, at the bottom, you will see a subscribe button. If you would like to hear more future podcasts, please hit that button. And my parting word I would like to say, I think something important that Rich had talked about, to keep moving forward. And I have a faith in life. I do think things work out no matter how hard things get, no matter how deep you think you're into something that you don't think you can get out of, you can. Keep moving forward. Keep putting one foot in front of the other.